Stop. Before you contort yourself into being easygoing one more time, ask yourself this. If being liked is so powerful, why are the nicest people you know usually the most disrespected? Why does the flaky friend who never replies get chased, while you, who answer instantly and care deeply, get taken for granted? Why does the manager who doesn't care about being popular get quiet obedience? And you, who just want everyone to feel comfortable, get talked over, ignored, sidelined? If being liked is the ultimate power, why do the people you secretly respect the most also scare you a little? Here's the dangerous truth. The world doesn't reward likability, it exploits it. What the world quietly bows to is respect. And respect is born from something you've spent your whole life avoiding: the willingness to disappoint people, to be misunderstood, even to be disliked, rather than betray yourself. Machiavelli said the quiet part out loud 500 years ago. You've heard that before, maybe as a villain quote. But if you strip away the drama, what is he really saying? Love is beautiful, but unstable. It fades when you stop pleasing people. It vanishes when their mood changes. It disappears when their interests shift. Respect, and the right kind of fear, last longer, because they're built on what happens when someone crosses your line. Right now, most people in your life are not afraid of crossing you. They aren't afraid of speaking to you a certain way. They aren't afraid of wasting your time, playing with your feelings, or using your loyalty as a cushion. Why? Because you taught them there is no cost. At worst, they'll get a long message about how much it hurt you and then access again. You don't need people trembling around you, but you do need this: the awareness deep in their bones that if they disrespect you too far, they lose something real. That is the dark power of respect. Let's be brutally honest. You were trained to chase being liked like it's oxygen. As a kid, you learned that making waves got you punished, while being no trouble got you a pat on the head. In relationships, you learned that speaking up led to arguments, while swallowing it kept the peace, for a while. So you adapted. You smiled when you were hurt. You laughed at jokes that didn't land. You said it's fine when it wasn't. You became a specialist in not making other people uncomfortable. You got very, very good at being liked. But look at the cost. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your head wishing you'd spoken up? How many times have you said yes while your chest felt like it was caving in? How many times have you watched people give basic respect to someone with half your empathy and half your loyalty just because that person doesn't care if they're liked? You thought likability was a shield. It's actually a collar. Machiavelli understood why. He wasn't romantic about human beings. He saw them as they are under stress: self-centered, fragile, reactive. People judge with their eyes, not their hearts, not your private intentions, not your hidden goodness. They see your posture, your tone, your behavior under pressure, and they decide who you are. You may feel strong on the inside, but if on the outside you apologize for everything, over-explain every decision, laugh off disrespect, and panic anytime someone is disappointed, that's what they believe. They don't feel how loyal and pure and kind you are. They see someone who is afraid of conflict and allergic to disapproval. And here's the ugly layer. The parts of you that you hope will make people love you are often the parts that make ruthless people think, perfect. You've met them. The friend who only calls when they need a favor. The partner who knows you're terrified of abandonment, so they withdraw affection to control you. They don't respond to your likability with gratitude. They respond with appetite. So what does it actually mean to stop being liked and start being respected? It does not mean becoming cruel. It means this: from now on, you value your self-respect more than their temporary approval. You are willing to have people think you're cold, selfish, or changed if that's the price of finally treating yourself like someone worthy of respect. Respect starts with what you tolerate. Not what you post, not what you preach, not what you say you believe, what you allow again and again. People don't listen to your speeches about boundaries, they watch your patterns. They do it again. You laugh awkwardly, let it pass. Lesson learned. The line is a suggestion. They shout. You stay and argue for 2 more hours. Lesson learned. Your if is empty. They ask again. You say yes. Lesson learned. Pressure works. Respect isn't built by what you say in the heat of the moment. It's built by what you do next time. Here's where Machiavelli becomes less a villain, more a brutally honest therapist. He keeps reminding you, people respond to appearances, not inner essays. You appear endlessly available. You appear incapable of saying no without a guilty explanation. You appear terrified of being seen as rude, difficult, or mean. You appear like someone who will prioritize harmony over honesty every time. So even if you are secretly strong, secretly angry, secretly done, nobody's treating you that way. They treat the version they see. This is the dark shift. You stop waiting for people to somehow psychically feel your worth. You start making your worth visible through your behavior. You simply stop doing what keeps you small. That might look like saying, "No, I can't," and letting the silence hang. Not rushing to fill awkward moments with nervous jokes. Not defending every decision just because someone raises an eyebrow. Not answering immediately to prove you're reliable. Not smoothing over every bit of tension so no one feels discomfort. Respectful people will adapt. Entitled people will be offended. That's how you sort them. It's because you're scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of being seen as the problem. Scared that if people don't like you, you'll have no one. That fear is exactly what makes you easy to control. The moment someone senses, even unconsciously, this person will do anything not to be rejected, they have a lever. They can raise their voice, go quiet, pull away, look disappointed, and you bend. You explain, you chase, you overcompensate. Machiavelli, again, doesn't romanticize this. He would tell you plainly, as long as you fear losing their love more than they fear losing your presence, you will be the one controlled. The dark power of respect begins when that equation flips. You start to think, yes, it will hurt if they leave. Yes, I might be lonely. Yes, they might tell people I'm crazy, selfish, ungrateful. That's when your energy changes. Your messages get shorter. Your no gets heavier. Your tolerance for certain jokes disappears. Your willingness to explain your basic needs evaporates. You don't become rude, you become clear. And clarity in a world addicted to muffled boundaries feels ruthless. Now, here's the part nobody explains. You cannot be respected externally while you're still begging internally. If on the outside you say, "I won't tolerate this," but on the inside you're pleading, "Please don't be mad at me," people will feel the truth. They read your micro-flinches, your nervous laughter, your over-apologizing. To switch from "like me" to "respect me," you need an inner shift. You stop treating other people's opinions as the judge and jury of your life. Their approval becomes data, not destiny. Helpful when it aligns with your values, irrelevant when it doesn't. This is where the darkness turns into something surprisingly peaceful. You realize you can survive someone thinking you're rude. You can survive someone telling a twisted story about you. You can survive not being invited. You can survive not being understood. What you can't survive, at least not without slowly dying inside, is continuing to bend yourself into a shape that fits everyone but you. Respect is built in those tiny moments where you choose loyalty to yourself over likability in the room. When you say, "Actually, I disagree," even if your voice shakes. When you say, "No, I'm not okay with that," even if they roll their eyes. When you say, "I'm going to head out," even if they tell you you're boring, dramatic, or too sensitive. Over time, something eerie happens. The same people who laughed at your boundaries start checking themselves around you. They don't vent the same way. They don't ask for as many favors. They don't joke as carelessly. Why? Because their nervous system has learned this one isn't like the others. You just shifted from likable background character to respected main character, without shouting, without threats, without becoming a bully. And yes, some people will leave, some will talk, some will throw tantrums because their favorite soft spot finally grew a spine. Let them. Let them teach you exactly who was there for your compliance, not your company. By now, you can feel the direction. Part of you is excited, part of you is scared. Good. That's the line between the old you and the one you're becoming. In the next part, we're going to sharpen this further. We'll get into the mechanics of how to move like someone who is respected, how to use silence without turning into a ghost, how to pick which disapproval you're willing to suffer, how to present yourself in a way that signals, "I am not cheap to access," before you even speak. And we'll keep Machiavelli in the room with us, not as a cartoon devil, but as the ruthless voice that reminds you what human beings actually respond to. For now, sit with this. You don't have to stop being kind. You do have to stop sacrificing your respect on the altar of being liked. That question is where the dark power of respect begins to wake up. By now, you've felt it, haven't you? That weird tension between who you've always been and who you're starting to become. You say no a little faster. You don't explain quite as much. You leave a message on read instead of performing your usual emotional CPR. And right after, there's this voice in your head. Was that too harsh? That voice is not your conscience. That voice is your addiction to being liked. And if you don't learn how to handle it, it will drag you back, straight into the same patterns that made you easy to disrespect in the first place. So, Etsy is about one thing: learning to hold your nerve when the world starts reacting to your shift. Turning your need to be liked into something colder, steadier, more useful. The dark power of respect. You are trying to be respected by everyone. That's the problem. Your boss, your coworkers, your parents, your partner, your friends, your followers, random strangers, cashiers, waiters, people you went to school with 10 years ago who still watch your stories. Machiavelli would look at that goal and shake his head. Not because respect is bad, but because chasing it universally is suicidal. If you professionally try to be good in every situation, with everyone, all the time, you're walking into a world full of not good people with your ribs exposed. Some are selfish, some are weak, some are just panicking about their own lives. They will choose themselves over you every single time. And you'll stand there, confused, wondering why your goodness didn't protect you. Respect begins when you accept this. Not everyone deserves your best self. Not everyone should have access to your patience, your empathy, your emotional labor. You don't owe the same version of you to a stranger that you owe to your inner circle. You don't owe the same flexibility to a flaky acquaintance that you owe to a loyal friend. Right now, you treat everyone like VIP. That's why you feel so drained. So the first dark move is this. You choose whose respect actually matters. Not the loudest person, not the one most likely to sulk, not the one most likely to talk trash. You pick a small group, the people whose character you respect, whose lives you admire, whose judgment isn't based on childish ego. You decide, if they think I'm off, I'll listen. That might be 3 people. It might be 1. It might even be a future version of you haven't met yet. That's your inner court. Their respect matters. Everyone else? Background noise. Useful data sometimes, but never a verdict. Flip it. Your worth is not measured by how many people like you, but by who you allow close enough to influence you. If your inner court is made of shallow, jealous, stagnant people, their disapproval is a compliment. If your inner court is made of disciplined, honest, growing people, their disapproval is a warning. You have to choose, or the world will choose for you, and it will always choose the loudest, most immature voices to dominate your mind. Flip it. Your worth is not measured by how many people like you, but by who you allow close enough to influence you. If your inner court is made of shallow, jealous, stagnant people, their disapproval is a compliment. If your inner court is made of disciplined, honest, growing people, their disapproval is a warning. You have to choose, or the world will choose for you, and it will always choose the loudest, most immature voices to dominate your mind. Now, once you decide whose respect matters, the next step is this. You must be willing to trade being liked by many for being respected by few. That trade will always feel like loss at first. You say no to something small, and suddenly someone pulls "you've changed" card. That's the storm that forms around anyone who stops being easy. Not because you're wrong, but because you're removing cheap access, and people who were used to it will throw tantrums. Machiavelli didn't dress this up nicely. He told rulers straight, if you want to be effective, you must be willing to be seen as harsh, unfair, even cruel by those who benefit from your softness. Notice the word safer. He's saying love is optional, respect is survival. If you must choose, you choose the thing that keeps you from getting eaten. For you, that doesn't mean making people fear your anger. It means making them quietly fear the cost of abusing your kindness. It means becoming the person no one wants to lose, because once they lose you, you don't come back on a discount. And here's where the practical mechanics kick in. Respect is built in 100 small micro moments where you do the opposite of what your people-pleaser reflex wants. Laugh when someone crosses a line, just to avoid awkwardness. Change your opinion mid-sentence if someone disagrees too forcefully. Reply instantly to prove you're not mad. Respect does the reverse. You say, "No, I can't," and then you shut up. You let the no sit there like a piece of furniture in the room. They will walk around it. They will step back from it. They will adjust. That tension you feel, that's your spine growing. Someone makes a joke that cuts too deep. Instead of smiling and pretending it's fine, you go quiet. You let your face show that it wasn't funny. Maybe you just change the subject and give them less of you the rest of the night. Their nervous system will clock it. Oh. Someone pushes back hard on your opinion. Old you panics, "I don't want to argue," and backpedals. New you says, "Yeah, we see this differently," and leaves it there. You don't start a war, you also don't fold just because someone is louder. This is the dirty little secret of respect. It is less about what you say and more about what you're willing not to say. Your restraint is terrifying to people who expect you to perform for their comfort. Think about the most respected people you know. They don't explain themselves constantly. They don't rush. They don't try to convince everyone. They let their actions and their silences carry weight. They aren't rude. They're just unwilling to sell their dignity for cheap approval. But here's where your fear kicks in. What if they think I'm arrogant? Machiavelli knew exactly how slippery public opinion is. He saw leaders ruin themselves trying to please everyone, only to lose their power and their popularity. Forget the old language. Focus on the essence. People despise leaders who wobble, who can't decide, who change shape to match whoever is in front of them, who are ruled by their need to be liked. When you do that, you think you're being adaptable. To most people, it just looks like you have no weight, no core, no center. You become forgettable, ignorable, easy to push. Respect demands that you be resolute about something. It could be your values, your time, your work ethic, your emotional availability. But there must be lines that do not move just because someone pouts, raises their voice, or threatens to withdraw affection. This doesn't mean you never change your mind. It means you don't change it just to avoid discomfort. That builds respect. But saying, "Okay, fine, you're right," just to escape tension, That destroys it. So let's talk about the backlash, because it will come. When you start prioritizing respect over being liked, certain types of people will freak out. The ones who relied on your guilt to control you. The ones who enjoyed unlimited access to your time and attention. The old you would panic and rush to prove you're still the same. Underneath their nostalgia for the old you is grief for the easy you. You don't need to argue with that. You don't need to give a TED talk on your growth. You can simply say, "Yeah, I have changed," and let the discomfort burn. The people who actually care about you will adapt. The ones who only cared about the perks will fall off. That's not a tragedy. That's a filtration system finally kicking in. Let's drop this into a concrete scenario. You're at work. The one who picks up slack, the one who stays late, the one who says yes when everyone else suddenly has plans. Your likability is high. Your respect? Not so much. You decide to change that. Then you go home. Is your boss thrilled? Maybe not. Maybe they sigh. Old you would cave. New you says, "I understand it's important. I have plans I can't move tonight." That's it. No anger, no drama, just a clear signal, my time has weight. I'm not a sponge. Do they like you less in that moment? Possibly. Do they start to see you as someone with a spine? Definitely. Does it raise the bar for how they ask you things in the future? Absolutely. Or take relationships. You're always available, always replying, always fixing, always there. The other person starts pulling weird stuff, disappearing, hot and cold, breadcrumbing. Old you responds by trying to be even nicer, even more understanding, hoping they'll come back emotionally. New you does the opposite. You notice the pattern once or twice, you bring it up calmly. I've noticed you pull away and come back a lot. If it keeps happening, you don't write a novel, you start withdrawing, shorter replies, longer gaps, more focus on your own life, and eventually, this isn't what I want. They might call you cold, they might accuse you of overreacting, they might suddenly become affectionate again to reel you in. Old you would melt. New you watches. You don't respond to the performance, you respond to the pattern. That's the dark power of respect. You stop treating temporary love bombs as proof of change. You wait to see if their behavior shifts long term. If it doesn't, you act. One more layer, respect is not loud. It doesn't need constant performance. Once you've made a change, you don't keep announcing it. You just live it. They'll figure it out when their usual tricks stop working. Some will keep their distance. Some will complain. Some will secretly admire you and start raising their own standards because of you. You become the reference point, the one in the group who doesn't tolerate certain behavior. You saw how being liked without respect slowly destroys you. In this part, you're seeing the opposite, how letting go of universal likability can quietly rebuild you. You are not here to be everyone's favorite person. You are not here to be the easiest to approach, the quickest to help, the softest to offend. You are here to build a life that doesn't collapse the moment someone withdraws their approval. That means there will be doors you close and don't reopen, conversations you won't have, invitations you ignore, stories about you that you don't correct. And there will be a handful of people, your inner court, whose respect you actually earn, not because you danced for it, but because you were willing to stand on something even when it cost you. In the final part, we'll take all of this and go even deeper into the Machiavellian endgame. How to walk into any room already carrying respect without saying a word. How to negotiate from, "I'm okay if this doesn't work out," and how to live in a way where losing someone's approval feels like a bruise, not a bullet. For now, remember this simple, brutal line. You can spend the rest of your life trying to be the most liked person in the room and still be the easiest one to disrespect. Or you can start becoming the one they might not always like, but quietly, deeply, cannot help but respect. You feel it, don't you? That quiet, stubborn part of you that's done. Done begging people to like you. Done turning yourself into a cushion so no one ever feels the hardness of your truth. But here's the real question now. If you stop chasing being liked, what does your life actually look like? How do you move at work, in relationships, with family, with friends? How do you walk into a room, make decisions, handle conflict, when respect, not approval, is your first language? Because this is the line you're crossing, and from understanding the dark power of respect to embodying it. Everyone reads that and thinks of kings, bosses, presidents. You can't command a room if you can't command your own mouth when it wants to over-explain. Respect doesn't start when other people listen. It starts when your own nervous system listens. When you tell yourself, "We're not going to chase this," and you don't. When you say, "We're not saying yes here," and you actually say no. When you decide, "We're not going to break down in front of this person," and you hold it together until you're somewhere safe. Did you say no and then cave? Did you say never again and then open the door? Did you say, "I'm done explaining," and then send one last explanation? That's not you being weak, that's you being untrained. You've trained yourself for years to put harmony above honesty. Now you're retraining. Command isn't natural for you, yet, but it can be. Start small. When your hand reaches, you pull it back. Not because checking is evil, but because you gave an order. At 10:55, someone pulls you into another story, another drink, another guilt trip. You leave anyway. Next time they do, you don't. No speech, no drama, just command. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your self-respect grows. And as your self-respect grows, something strange happens. People begin to sense it before you open your mouth. Which brings us to the next Machiavellian truth about respect. You want to believe people will feel your heart. They won't. They will see your frame. If you appear desperate, people treat you as if you are desperate. If you appear always available, people treat you as if you are always available. If you appear uncertain, apologies falling out of your mouth, they treat you as if you are uncertain, no matter how clear your mind really is. You can meditate, journal, heal, repeat mantras, but if you walk into the world hunched over, speaking too fast, saying sorry every 5 seconds, explaining your existence like it's on trial, those are the appearances people respond to, not your secret growth. Not to fake who you are, but to stop sending visual messages that contradict your true worth. You can start with 3 simple shifts: pace, posture, and presence. Pace. Slow down. Respectful people are not rushed around like packages. You walk slightly slower. You talk slightly slower. You pause before you answer. Fillers. Posture. Lift your chest, drop your shoulders, look people in the eye when you speak and when you listen. Not staring them down, not avoiding their gaze. Just present. You're no longer curled into yourself, hoping not to be noticed. You're not hiding in corners or behind your phone. You move like your body contains someone important, even if you don't fully believe it yet. Presence. You don't react to every noise. You don't turn at every notification. You don't jump just because someone says your name with urgency. You respond when you're ready, not when triggered. You might think this is superficial. It's not. It's strategic. Now you're learning to send a different signal. I respect me. Strip away the old language. Men means people. People move toward pleasure, love, approval, gain, or away from pain, fear, loss, consequence. Right now, your relationships are mostly driven by one side of that equation: love. People like you because you're easy, kind, understanding, available. That's nice, but it isn't stable. Without any fear of loss, love becomes laziness. They love that you'll understand when they cancel. They love that you'll keep showing up even when they've stopped showing up for you. They love the version of you that never asks for more. Respect requires adding the missing half: appropriate fear. Not fear that you'll explode or punish them. Fear that if they cross your lines too many times, they will lose the privilege of you. You need both. Without love, you're a tyrant. Without fear, you're a toy. So how do you build that kind of balanced respect without turning into a dictator? You don't threaten. You demonstrate. Next time they do, you calmly end it. Next time, you don't. And then, you do. Less texts, less calls. No screaming, no guilt trips, no ultimatums you can't enforce, just cause and effect. You become a person whose consequences are real, not theatrical. They feel the love, but they also feel the line. That line is the fear half. That's where respect lives. Now let's talk about the final form of this, becoming someone whose absence is louder than most people's presence. When you're addicted to being liked, your instinct is always toward more. More texting, more explaining, more chasing, more proving. You try to flood the connection with effort so nobody can accuse you of not caring. But truly respected people have a different weapon: strategic disappearance. They don't storm out dramatically, they just quietly stop feeding what disrespects them. Less replies, less energy, less availability. Then, if the disrespect continues, nothing. They vanish. Not as a game, but as a decision. And the people who thought they were entitled to your loyalty suddenly feel something they never expected: the weight of losing you. Your time, your attention, your emotional labor. That's when the dark power of respect hits them. Once you're gone, you become real. Oh. You don't need to take revenge. Reality will. Someone else will get the late-night calls. Someone else will get the messy, half-assed effort. And someone else, smarter than you used to be, will walk away faster. Your job isn't to stick around until they learn the lesson. Your job is to learn yours. At this point, if you really let all this in, your identity starts to shift in 3 ways. First, your default question changes. Second, your tolerance resets. Third, your definition of good person evolves. You used to think being good meant never hurting anyone. Now you know being good also means not letting people hurt you endlessly while you smile. So, what does life actually look like when you stop chasing being liked and start caring respect? It looks like fewer, deeper friendships instead of a crowded chat list full of shallow ones. It looks like quieter weekends because you're not going to every event out of fear of missing out or being forgotten. It looks like more money in your account because you're not buying your way into people's affection with constant generosity. It looks like a smaller audience, but one that listens when you speak instead of a bigger audience that watches you dance. And inside, it feels like this. You walk into rooms without rehearsing who you need to be. You say what you mean, knowing some will misinterpret it, and you'll survive. You walk away from chaos without writing a 10-page apology letter in your head. You sleep better because you're no longer on trial in your own mind every time someone is slightly distant. You're not numb. You still care. Rejection still stings. Disapproval still burns. But it no longer governs you. It's short, sweet, and leaves you empty. Respect is slower, heavier, built over time through consistency, not performances. But once it's there, in you and around you, it doesn't vanish because one person rolls their eyes. So here's your recap. You learned that chasing likability turned your life into a marketplace where your soul was always on sale. You learned that people respond more to what you seem than who you secretly are. And you started making your appearance match your worth. You learned that to be obeyed, you first have to command yourself. You learned that love, without any fear of loss, breeds entitlement, not intimacy. You learned that the people who truly deserve you adapt when you grow, and the ones who only liked you weak will try to drag you back. You learned that letting people be wrong about you is sometimes the highest form of self-respect. Now the choice is sitting in front of you in its ugliest form. You can keep living the way you always have. Keep smoothing every edge. Keep laughing off every insult. Keep answering every call. Keep apologizing for every boundary. Keep letting your entire day, mood, and self-worth be decided by who approves of you. Or, you can let this be the moment something in you hardens. Not your heart, but your standards. You can become the person who is still kind, still human, still capable of deep love, but utterly unwilling to trade respect for a handful of cheap likes. If you're done begging to be liked, tap like. If you're ready to become the kind of person they might not always understand, might not always agree with, but quietly, deeply cannot help but respect, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss what comes next. Drop a comment with "respect over likes" so I know you're not just nodding along, you're rewriting the way you move in every room from this day forward. And send this to the one person who has spent their whole life being the nice one, the therapist friend, the emotional punching bag, who has never been told they're allowed to stop auditioning and start commanding. Because this isn't self-help, this is strategy, this is war. And from today on, you're not the one begging at the door, you're the door they're either allowed through or not.